So, how's it been this week so far?
Good. Amazing. Just lots of stuff shifting. I've been sitting with those 5 words. Um, and I don't know whether it's just resistance or if it's the whole process of right, the minute you sit down to a blank piece of paper, it's like, ah. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I feel like I've got like this nebulous, vague, floaty feeling around all of it. But when it comes to putting it onto paper, and actually right now I'm just hearing your voice saying, well, you should just write.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with it all.
Yeah. So you have your words, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so yeah, help me to understand where's the block? Are you trying too hard to
Um,
integrate every one of those words? Is it,
no, I think it's more. So when I procrastinate things, it's something to do with either I don't know how to do it or I can't make the leap from. I think that's what I'm having an issue with is like I'm having difficulty making the leap from this kind of untangible sense around the direction I'm moving into pragmatic language. Does that make sense?
yeah. So maybe it's that pragmatic part.
Yeah, like I can't find words for it. And I guess maybe I think probably at the root of all of it is I just really not completely, totally clear what it is anyway. Maybe that's part of the issue is that I'm not quite there yet in terms of fleshing out what this is, what my purpose is.
Okay. So in a case like that, and this is what happens, right? So we get focused on doing the job correctly,
Hmm.
right? And so this is such a great exercise in letting that go. So you have your 5 words. So at this point, you could I'm almost thinking we should do it now.
Sure.
Let's do a 10-minute free write.
Sure.
Forget those words. In other words, don't try to incorporate them into so in other words, the prompt will be my purpose is, and you'll start with those words and just go for 10 minutes. And again, here are the rules of free writing. So if you're doing this at home, I'm going to start the clock and I'm going to keep it going. So if you're watching this at home, then you're going to write and I will let you know when to stop. So I'll keep the camera going instead of, or the recording going instead of stopping. Um, the rules of the free writing are this: keep writing, keep your hand moving, don't edit, don't think, forget about spelling and punctuation. Don't even worry about the margins. When Natalie Goldberg does this, actually, I'll show you uh my free writing journal, right? She said don't even care about margins, which as for a
Hmm.
Virgo, that's very hard, right? So if there's any white space, just use it, and so
Barrel over it.
that's right. And when you're done, like I'll do a little space, but then I'll start and I'll write right at the top. So
Got it.
so take away all of the structure and allow your mind to just go for 10 minutes and keep going through. And here's what happens when your mind gets stuck and wants to make sense. You can even write, I have nothing to say, I have nothing to say, I have nothing to say, until your mind gets sick of that and it will naturally go back. Now, the other part about free writing is we're starting with a prompt. My purpose is, my life purpose is, whatever my purpose is. But you may end up talking about your childhood or your dog or whatever, and that's okay. Because
Grocery list.
what we want is for your mind to go where it needs to go.
Wander. Got
It's
it.
yeah, let it wander.
That's
Um,
helpful. Yeah.
yeah. So there's not, we're taking that structure away. The only structure is 10 minutes, keep your hand moving, don't look back.
Got it.
Whee!
Woohoo! That's very helpful because I think what I get, and that was what happened on Tuesday, right? Is you
Mhm.
kind of get like that freeze response and you get stuck and you're like, oh, I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
And
Or
now you
this
just
is
keep
shit. Or
thinking,
yeah,
yeah.
right.
And so that's helpful because I'll just keep whatever comes, comes.
Yeah, and I remember taking an online workshop with Natalie Goldberg, who is sort of the pioneer for this work. She said, "Feel free to write shit." And she's like, a lot of people in the class, and there were hundreds of people in the class. She's like, "I want someone to come up and read me their shit. If you think you just wrote shit, I want to hear it." So somebody would get up and read what they wrote for 10 minutes, and then she'd be like, "I'm waiting for the shit." You know what I mean? We are so critical of ourselves,
Yeah.
right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 10 minutes without, so that's the prompt is my purpose is, and then just go. Okay. So, I will tell you when to begin so I can make sure I time this accurately and go. 10 minutes begins now. Good luck. Okay, that's 10 minutes. All right. So also in the mode of Natalie Goldberg, you now read it out loud. And when there are other people, and this is just for people to know too, when we ever do any free writing and sharing, there's no commentary. It's just thank you. Right. So no one feels like they have to do any disclaimers or that they're going to be judged in any way. And of course, this is a whole non-judgment universe here, but okay, so let's hear what you wrote.
Okay. So my life purpose is to be grounded and loving and kind and to be deeply connected to source, to be a safe place to land for myself and for others, to collect data and make sense of it, to give some reassurance that their experience is valid and to validate their inner hurt and experiences, to offer relief from confusion and despair. Then my pen stopped. To rescue people from that ledge, the edge of the cliff when they're desperate and life doesn't make sense. And no matter how hard they try or how hard the work, they work at it, they can't seem to make progress toward the truth they feel inside, to offer a path and direction maybe to people who feel trapped and despondent, confused, and something and worthless, to give people reassurance that are helpful, resources that are helpful and life-changing, to be a keeper of their stories, to be a wealth of knowledge and a to another world, pathway to another world, and way of being that they know exists because they feel it deep in their core, that there is a different way out there, not the way things are right now. I'm a breadcrumb layer. I drop tiny bits of information and respite and guidance. I'm a path pointer saying maybe go that way. Maybe the answer is along that route, the answer to this particular struggle, and not even the answer, but some bit of advice that will illuminate the truth of their inner perfection, that holds a mirror up for them to see the glory of who they are, a something to help make sense of their struggles and give a little nudge or nod of encouragement at the dark night of the soul, a beacon for the seekers, the ones mired in misery, but who know there's something not quite right about being there and know that they somehow have something to do with it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, what's your experience now of having done that?
So first of all, it was incredibly helpful. Just I felt like it was a body doubling exercise where it's like I couldn't quite make myself do it, and with you creating the space and the guidance to do that felt a lot easier. Took huge amount of pressure off. I feel like some of it's just like purging inner experience. Um, but I think what came up for me is that there's a narrative from my lifetime that I feel it's kind of like it was definitely my lesson to learn in terms of my ability to navigate and kind of get out of the mucky mire. And recognizing that I did that not on my own, but because all the way along the way, there were people that helped me along. I get really excited about helping people, pointing them in that direction. My mom was talking about that on the weekend, leaving breadcrumbs. Like, and I like that analogy, right? Like, I don't feel like it's this, I'm not here to do this great big thing. I just feel like sometimes that's all people need is like, hey, go, why don't you just go check that out? Or go do this. Or sometimes it's just the easiest this sometimes, and I notice that with a lot of the stuff I do, it's like people come back and say, like it was just that thing that you said last week that just made all the difference.
Mhm.
Um, and so I feel like it's it comes from my solar plexus. It's lighting, it's illuminating, it's those words, right? It's authentic. It's inspires me. I feel like it inspires other people. It's very specific. It's future oriented. It's actionable and it's measurable and there can be a timeline to it. There you go.
Ding, ding.
Ta-da. Ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. So right. And the experience of just having time to let go of the expectations of crafting purpose statement. I mean, it sounds so business oriented, but that's not what we're talking about. It's just like, the example I gave on Tuesday is like, I'm here to share what I love in the world with others or whatever it was, like to be the
Yeah.
best person I can be. That's a fine purpose statement,
Yeah.
right? So, but I jotted down, because you brought this up, there were three things that came up, that were resonant for me. And again, we're not breaking down, or editing what you've written, but for the purpose of coming up with some kind of concrete statement.
Right.
um, there's I love the breadcrumb layer. The breadcrumb layer was fantastic, and that goes with the other two as well. The path pointer. These sound like archetypes.
Yeah.
And beacon, you said beacon for the seekers, but I just wrote down beacon for seekers. Um, those are all the same thing, and different. It's like a gem, and you're looking at different facets of it, right? And the gem being and then the storytelling part and this and story keeping part, right?
Yeah, and the keeper of the knowledge. So I feel like there's two, that piece has two pieces, right? So there's the story piece, and
Mhm.
then there's the data piece, like there's the wisdom piece, right? And I feel
Mhm.
like those are two very distinct things, but they go in the same cup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
one of them is your internal process, and the other is the transmogrification of that information. It's like
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
right? The
And
internal, the external.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Um, so yeah, that gives you a nice arc, right? What's going on inside of you that you are composting and creating the data. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I see it too. Is the and that's so interesting. It's the quantitative and the qualitative,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I see that in two very distinct kind of columns in my world, which is yes, here is your story that can never be summed up in a binary digit.
Right.
That and it's so important to capture it because that's what helps you make sense of your world. But then there's also this statistical data that is so foundational to shifting you out of the muck and the mire.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So the data can be sort of like packing a backpack for a hike. That's the stuff you need.
Don't forget your trail mix.
Don't forget your trail mix. But the hike itself, who
Right.
knows? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can go anywhere,
Yeah.
and that's up to you,
Yeah.
right?
And
You.
you need both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And one creates the other and the other it's cyclical. Yeah.
Yeah, they feed each other.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't want to go on a long hike without these tools because you might get lost or you might get hungry, or you might not, dehydrated or whatever, have your compass, you don't have those. It might be fun, but you might really get lost,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not have the supplies that you need to enjoy yourself
Yeah.
on your
You can
journey.
save yourself an enormous amount of self-imposed suffering
Hmm.
by having those tools ahead of time.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. So when you're working with couples, for example, that's all of the stuff you're doing behind the scenes is what you're preparing their backpacks for them,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they can take shit out of the backpack if it doesn't work for them, or
Yeah.
replace it. All right,
Well,
enough
and
of
that's
that
why
analogy.
it's so important to have like, oh, and that's the breadcrumb thing, right?
Right,
It's like I can't tell you your story and I can't tell you what you need. I can intuit, and so that's what I feel so powerful about. It's like, and maybe it's because we live in this world where everyone's making content. And it's like I try to wedge myself into that world. And
hmm
I'm a content um gatherer. I'm a gatherer.
hmm
Yeah. And that
yeah,
feels really good. And that leads into the ancestry stuff as well, right? Like it just
right,
feels fair. And I guess that was my struggle when I walked into the lab today, is that I realize now that's the nebulous idea and it can be expressed in a myriad of different ways.
right, right. So if
Yeah.
what you love is the gathering, that's your content. Here's what I found this week.
Yeah.
Here's the story I just, uncovered, or here's a new tool that I found that I'm sharing with you. Here's a new statistic. Want to learn about it? Because I like it. You know what I mean? There's your content should you decide to go that route, So instead of thinking I've got to come up with all this new exciting stuff, leaning into what you're really good at and what lights you up
Yeah.
is what will light other people up,
A
you know.
portal. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
I like that portal analogy. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, like, and that's what I feel like. Look at this amazing human being that's creating all of this incredible stuff, like you. Like, look at this thing, look at this, why would I go and replicate this thing? It exists, here it is, go and find her, and go
Right,
and find her here, and this is what you want it for,
right.
if that's what you're needing. Yeah. And so that feels really like, I feel like I am yeah, portal.
Yeah. Love that. That,
Yeah.
that's a purpose in itself. Being, yeah, you're a hub. You're a
Hub,
portal.
I have a hub.
You are your own hub.
I'm my own
Hmm.
hub.
You're the rest stop, and where people can fuel and relax and
Yeah.
catch their breath,
Like
you know.
like when we were in Chicago and everybody came into that bus station, right? And then it's like everybody's going off into all these different directions, and oh, maybe you want to go there, and oh, you want to go there. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So how do you feel about like putting that into a statement form?
I feel good about that. That's way that if it was really kind of nebulous when I
Hmm.
walked in here, and now, and I feel it somatically. Like I can
Hmm.
feel it so deeply, and it
Hmm.
resonates so deeply. And I feel like I can take that and I can hone it and make it a lot more clear. And then from there, I feel like I can like brainstorm, word bubble, word map, like how can I where do I want to, how do I want to express this in my relationship, in my professional life, in
Hmm.
my just like here, I should be having fun today.
Yeah.
What is my hobby? Yeah.
Right. What are the
Yeah.
things that give me joy? And and all of that works together. Even the downtime helps you to regenerate, helps you to recharge so that so that is part of it. That's the feeding yourself what you need in order to continue to do what you do best,
For everyone else. Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm not surprised you're feeling it in your solar plexus, you know.
Whee!
Yes, the seed is
Yeah.
self right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah.
Super cool.
Um, good. So yeah, you feel fairly confident to craft that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like I can take that and make it much more succinct. Um, and I feel like it's a foundation. There's a foundational piece. And what I was trying to reverse engineer, right? So I was trying to start with the expression of what that is.
Yeah, that's next week.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I was trying to go from it backward. And because I couldn't quite, I was like, oh, well, is it the genealogy thing? And so
Hmm.
I was going from that, which is, I mean, we have had this talk conversation right from the start here, right? Like I start with the expression of it as opposed to, what's deeply inside of me and what's driving those expressions in the world. So yeah,
Right. Right.
this is much this I can take and I can just apply it everywhere.
Right. And that's exactly what the point is. So on Tuesday we're dealing with like what does this look like? How do you take this out into the world? And again, for whether for you it's your career, or if it's some artistic endeavor, or being the story keeper for your family, or all of those things, that's great. That's all of what we're talking about here. For some people, it may be much more general. It might just be um, live the best that I can and put good energy out in the world. And that's a beautiful purpose to have, and a very important purpose to have. What that looks like would be an interesting thing for people I'm thinking of people who might have more general, like, I just want to be a good person. What does that look like? How do you show up? Right. So it's like, well, I can be more congruent in my language with people around me. I can try to use those tools so I don't lose my temper when someone cuts me off in traffic or whatever. You know what I mean? What energy am I putting out there? And it is a practice. It is a practice, right? But so having said that, that'll be something. I mean, since you're reverse engineering it, you might have ideas, but now that you've done the more abstract work, new ways of expressing it may come up.
Yeah. I've been doing what you said and just holding all of it so lightly. Just like, and my tendency is just like a little Rottweiler. Like, I mean, like I something pops into my brain and my inclination is just to like latch onto it and say, "Oh, there it is." And I just feel like through this entire process with you, I've just been able to say, "Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe we'll see where that goes." And I feel like that's the same thing with what's just happened now. I said, "Okay, well, that's interesting. Let's just kind of see what bubbles to the surface." Over the last 2 weeks, there's been an enormous shift, even just from that first workshop we did together. There's been an enormous shift in just in my, so like I've gone from realizing like this is what I'm doing and what I'm doing doesn't feel congruent. And so I've been trying to figure out, is that self-sabotage, or is it just like I don't like it, right? And what I've realized in the process is like I am a textbook writer. Well, there are jobs out there that do that, right? And so what I feel like's happened in these last 3 weeks is all of these opportunities have opened up that just weren't even in my radar, right? Like just weren't even in my psyche. Um, and that just feels really exciting to me. Like it just feels like a whole parallel universe of stuff is kind of trickling in, um, by not kind of like grabbing that thing and steering us all in that direction. So
Yes, that's the whole point of this, is when we relax and we stay true to the essence and, extracting that essence part, then we're better able to say, to sort of leave the door open for new ideas. And it's just the part of our brains that want to make sense of things and compartmentalize things and solidify things. It's just how we're built, right? And to kind of turn that on its ear and say, let me just hold this lightly. Let me just feel it. And then while you're staying in that state, new information starts coming in that wasn't there before. It's amazing. It's just like,
didn't even occur to me.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. What are some things that didn't occur to you?
Like reaching out to the college that I went to and speaking to the head of psychology and talking to them about organizing. I know all the first year psych students do like programs and stuff. They do research. And just like working with them to create a program for people that are beginning to date. Like just I was like, oh wow, like right, let's work together to make a workbook. Like it just didn't even wasn't even on my textbook writing. Just
Yeah.
all of those things. I thought, yeah,
Hmm.
that is what I do. Like
Hmm.
why am I forcing myself into this because I have the well, I actually read your blog about the air conditioning unit and it's the same thing, right? It's like work is hard.
Yeah.
You work and you're paid by the hour. It never occurred to me that you could work for 2 years and then make a whole bunch of money at once. Like,
Right.
who could possibly even do that?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
oh, wait a minute. Maybe I could. Maybe I could organize my life so it looks like that.
Right.
Just mind blowing.
I know. That is, congratulations. That's the foundation of self, right? It's like,
Woo!
oh, wait a second. All this is mine. All this that is here for me to use and work with so that I can do what I'm put here to do. And if the structure doesn't work for me, I change the fucking structure,
Yeah.
for
Just put
me.
in the AC unit.
Just fucking put it in.
Just put it in.
Why are you sitting there?
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I
Yeah.
can do this. How much of this I'm carrying is not mine?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then to have a good laugh about it is so important.
Oh, I do that very
Yeah,
well.
yeah. You have no problem. I have no problem. But yeah, and that's also part of the non-judgment, right? Is instead of hating on ourselves for not having thought of it sooner, we
Yeah.
go, "Oh, this is lovely." You know what
Oh,
I
look at
mean?
me. Look how
I saw,
silly I am.
and it really is a sense of relief
Yeah.
to say, and then you get addicted to it a little bit, which is like, what else can I fuck with? What other long-standing beliefs and patterns have I just unconsciously worked under that I can now bring into the light and say,
Really
does
need
this really serve
this.
me? Yeah. Yeah.
And it
What
was
we
there
are,
all along.
right. What we're taught, and, in order to create a cohesive society, um, some of it is great. We want to be able to contribute to our communities and, financially and in terms of our skill set. We want to make sure that, we have community, whatever that looks like for us, whether it's a community of one other person or a community of 1,000 people, whatever it is, great. All those things are great. But you do with it is what gives you the freedom. I probably used this analogy before, but I love it so much that when you're learning a new language, you have to learn all the words and the grammar and the sentence structure and all of that. But then once you learn the language, you can say whatever the hell you want, right? So that structure part of it is there for a reason, but then you can express
Infinite.
yourself, yeah, in an infinite way.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so beautiful to then think about, like, everything from what am I going to have for dinner can be like, oh, well, or what are my eating habits? Am I joyful about those? Are there things that I can change? And it just adjusts everything. The
Why do I speak English?
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so yeah, there's so much that we can revisit in our lives once we have those foundation of self tools, right?
Yeah. I'm just honestly, my brain is just going, oh, wait, there too. Oh, wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait.
This is the
Yeah.
side effect.
Yeah. It's almost like it's like, well, it's neural grooves, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's neural grooves that you've been conditioned that this is the path and it's the cow path. Oh, we're all going to take the cow path because
exactly.
dinner's at that end. But wait a minute, what if I just blaze off in this direction?
Right.
Well, I may not get dinner, but I may have a whole bunch of more fun over there.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
okay too,
yeah,
and it's okay also to go off in that direction and go, this wasn't the right direction for me. Let me back and go in a different direction. That's why the non-judgment part plays such a big role, so that we're not binding our ankles or being afraid of making a mistake,
mm,
that we're simply on an adventure and everything is learning. Everything is a learning for us, a teaching for us. So no matter what it is we're going through, and then internally in terms of our psyches as well, where are the areas where I'm still stuck? Is it self-sabotage? Is it, or do I trust this? And that's why those interoception tools are so important too, is like, let me check how my body feels when I bring that in. Does it get closed or does it open?
yeah,
If it's open, okay, then I'm not sabotaging myself, you
right.
know?
I just don't like it.
Yeah, I just don't like it. And that's
Right,
okay.
right. I
Right.
feel drained after I do this. And
Right.
then I think to myself, oh, well, there's something wrong with me because I feel drained after doing this. And then I think, no, 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 because I could go out in the garden right now and I could work all day long and not feel drained at the end of that. So what's actually going on here? Well, maybe this just isn't in alignment. It works for all those people, and that's fabulous. But
Right.
if I keep trying to squish myself into this box, I'm going to be a very unhappy person.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And once that key is given to you, being squished in a box no longer works.
Yeah.
And it's not even like it's not even like an effort anymore. It's like, what else can I re revisit and reform and renovate in my life? What else can I clean out that I don't that I is kind of stuck in my basement of myself that just doesn't serve me anymore. I can't wait, like, let's have a big old
Literally and
yard sale.
figuratively.
Yes, I
And
know,
like
right?
literally,
Yeah.
I've been doing that with my grandparents' house. Like I have a house of generations. I have 4 generations of people's stuff in here. It's
Hmm.
like it's time to clean house in so
Yeah.
many ways. Like the litter, I feel the dust of that ancestral messaging,
Yeah.
like just so thick,
Hmm.
hoarding information, all of the pieces. And I'm like, wow, this last 3 weeks of working through all of these parts has it's been explosive.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
incredible. It really, really is.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and so what's the point of doing it now in our lives, and bringing it back to, this course being particularly geared toward women in midlife. This is the time that we do that sort of internal and maybe external cleaning house, right?
Reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, that reflection of, okay, and we're going to get into this in the midlife and death course, which comes up in next month. But really, now the reason we do the purpose part is to have that to hold on to as we move into talking about our mortality, which is a really, really important part of our lives to be known and celebrated, So that's why it's important to say, okay, here's why I'm here. What wisdom am I sharing? What life experiences have I sat with and worked on? What information have I gathered that I can now craft and turn into wisdom to be shared?
That's crazy because as you're saying that, I'm realizing that it's it's alchemy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've
Yep. I
literally
use that all the
what I
time.
have done is I have taken a pile of poo. It was like literally there had been decades of struggle. And to sit here at this end of the equation and to be able to look back and make sense of it with all the support that I've had, to sit here and have you kind of help me hone that and literally change it to gold
Mm.
is it's just mind blowing
Yeah.
to see that and to bemoan, to beat yourself up about all of those mistakes.
Mm.
Right? It's like, no, wait a minute. You lived through it for a purpose, and that purpose is actually informing deeply who you are and how you want to show up for yourself, for your community, for your family, for everyone. Yeah, and I couldn't be this without all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And so that's why I even hate calling it work,
Yeah.
even though there is effort that is made. It really is more of an adventure of, yeah, it's like packing that backpack. Like, what do I need to go on this journey so that I can get to a point where, okay, my life is mine. Now you hit that point, and now it's like, okay, my life is mine, and I'm working on it all the time, joyfully, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
That's not enough to just rest on my feeling comfortable in my life. This is why at midlife we get called to the place of generativity, right? Of wisdom sharing, because we can't keep the gifts all to ourselves. It doesn't serve us, right?
Yeah.
But neither should we feel obligated, right? That's where I think a lot of women feel that pressure, like, oh, now I'm supposed to be a mentor. You don't
Right.
have to do anything. You are a mentor by being. But if you also, no matter what you do, you're integrating all of that foundation of self-work into whatever it is you're doing in the world, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go take a young 29, 30 something year old under your wing and guide her,
Right.
right? At all. If that happens, excellent. But that's not what we're talking about here.
It's not necessarily expressed in that way. Yeah,
Uh,
I get that. Yeah.
yeah.
And it feels inspired, right? Like it feels like in like I couldn't imagine not doing it. It's exciting, right? What it feels like is it's shifted from this, oh geez, here's just one more thing that I need to do on my list. Now I've arrived at this age and now I'm supposed to do all of this stuff. And instead of it feeling like that, it's like not this draggy thing to do. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Right. That's
So
why it's, yeah,
yeah,
that's why it's so important to make this yours, as opposed to, that's what I was banging everybody over the head with for the last 3 weeks, is this has to resonate with your highest self, or else
mhm,
it's going to just be another task
yeah,
that you won't do, and then you'll feel shitty.
then I'll feel bad for myself.
Right, right. Right.
Yeah.
And if it
Yeah.
doesn't resonate with your highest self, go back and make sure that it does. Check that's even the Write Yourself Open classes where we were meeting our highest self, using the highest self as an oracle, right? Getting to know that self
Yeah.
as a compadre on your journey makes it so much easier to do this.
Yeah.
Because like, wait a second, I'm checking in with my body, checking in with my spirit. Yep, that feels good. You know what I mean? And then you can say, okay, now I own that. And yeah, it's energizing as opposed to draining, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
And I could not have done this a year ago.
You think?
No, I could not. I would, without you guiding me through this entire process from when we started last fall to now, without your guidance through that process, I could not have arrived at that place right now.
Mhm.
I would not be at this place. Absolutely and for sure. It has just been,
Well,
it
you
had,
did it, but you did it.
right,
That's
right.
the,
But you
let's credit where it's
facilitated
due.
it. Right, right. I had to show up and I had to do the work and I
Yeah.
had to think and I had to sit with it and all of the pieces, whether it was comfortable or uncomfortable. But without your guidance and without you facilitating me through a very structured process where you introduce things when they were relevant in a logical order. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Right, because there are so many gifted people. You are doing such an amazing thing in moving me through that process. And I could not have arrived at this moment feeling the way I feel about this without you having done that.
Yeah.
So it's really
Beautiful.
amazing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, and yeah, not to overlook that you did do the work. And
Yeah.
that's not, it's very easy to say, yeah, I want to improve myself. Um, uh, but to actually do it is a whole different thing. And you've really embraced it and made it yours, which is the whole point, right? Because even what I'm presenting is not it's not a formula that applies to everybody. It has to be loose enough so that you find your own way in it,
Yeah.
which you have definitely done. Yeah. So, yay. Good.
Yay.
We have a few more minutes. Anything else coming up that you wanted to address for this week?
I don't think so. I think like you really helped me kind of to get clear on that. And I was really struggling with it. And so I can see it's not a glitch, but I can see it's just part of the way my brain works. And without that foundational piece, it's really hard to kind of move forward. And it was helpful to know that what I will start kind of pondering and thinking about Tuesday, it's helpful to know that there'll be some guidance in terms of kind of going from what I have now, and I'll start kind of like letting thoughts drift in around, like how do I express this?
The expression. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what that's all about. So we'll be
yeah,
working with that on Tuesday.
yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Cool.